Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith, and you are tuned in to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. The podcast that will connect you to resources regionally and nationwide to engage them and you in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire the growth that you need to chase the experience you want. So strap yourself in because here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. I'm Sean Smith, and on the other line, I have a couple gentlemen from the great state of Michigan. Sorry if you guys are Ohio State fans, because I know I'm from Ohio, but actually I am Go Blue all the way. I love University of Michigan, so hopefully we share the same sentiments with this couple guys here. But I got Steve and Dan on the line. They are from a company that specializes in recovery products, and it's called UnkleStubbs.com. And Steve, Dan, you guys are new to the podcast, so welcome. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Dan, what about you, my man?
Loving it. Beautiful day out. Glad to be here. Really excited. Couldn't be better.
Couldn't be better. Well, it is a beautiful day, and like we talked about offline, just real quick, it's finally 78 degrees and sunny here, and I don't see a speck of rain on the forecast, at least for several days, which is a very stark contrast to what we just experienced, where I thought we were going to have biblical proportions of flooding with the amount of rain that we were getting. I didn't know if we could hold much more. Because I know our pond on our private property here was about to overcome its banks, and we even have a drain for it. So we got a lot of rain, and so this sunshine is very, very welcomed. So I don't know what it's been like for you guys there in Michigan, but that's definitely been the story here in Ohio.
Bluebird skies and sunshine here in Michigan will take it. I think we're supposed to have thunderstorms tonight, but these 70-degree warm days and lows in the 40s, I think you could hit repeat for about 4.5 months, and I'd be happy.
There you go. That makes for a good turkey season, which is actually right around the corner. When do your guys' come in?
April 20th.
I think this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just coming up on it this weekend.
Well, you guys start the same day that we do then. So
yes, sir.
We have two zones in Ohio. It's kind of weird, but we got this north zone, which is only like a handful of counties, that opens a week later. And then the rest of the state's known the South Zone, and it opens on the 20th with you guys. So for some reason in my head, I thought maybe you guys opened later than us because of that. I don't know. But
we run I think they kind of changed it up, but I think there's about 3 different seasons you can get. First 1 or 2 are a week, and then the last one I think is somewhere around the 1st of May, and it runs almost the whole month of May. But yeah, I always like the first one because there aren't mosquitoes out yet.
I don't know about that. There's a couple that's been buzzing around the pond here, and whenever I had to chase off already, I'm like, I'm not ready for this. If it ain't the mosquitoes, it's the ticks, though. Oh, those are getting pretty bad down here. I don't know what are they like for you guys up there.
It's been increasing year after year. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid, we never even thought of it. Shoot, even 20 years ago, we didn't think about it. They weren't around. And now, you can't go out anywhere. I don't know if it's as bad as it was. I probably hunted down in southern Iowa and Illinois probably 20 years ago. And I remember it was a concern even back then. But Michigan has really came on in the last decade, and now it is something you got to deal with.
Yeah. Do you guys have those Lone Star ticks up there? Have you came across any of those yet?
I don't think so.
Lone Star.
I haven't seen them.
I don't know if I'm calling it by a different name.
So they are basically why they're called Lone Star. They have a small white dot, the females do, on their abdomen.
I don't know. I know that we're pretty much running your typical wood tick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that there's more of the deer ticks, which has become more and more to the front with the Lyme disease scare.
Yeah.
But but I'm not sure about the other one.
Yeah. So last time I had heard anything about them, and the only reason I bring this up is because they are apparently moving, their range is moving northward. And I didn't know we had them in Ohio until a couple years ago. We went down to Southern Ohio. We usually go, we do like it's almost like a semi kind of like a elk hunt, backcountry hunt, but we do it for turkey. So we'll pack up and go down to some public ground down in Southern Ohio and spend a weekend with the backpacks and just kind of camp out and chase birds. Hopefully they're gobbling when we're doing that. But my one buddy forgot to treat all of his clothes like I told him to, and every day we were picking ticks off of him, and that's when we started to come across those Lone Star ticks. And the scary part about the Lone Star, so Lyme disease is one thing. So your dog ticks, your deer ticks, things like that spread Lyme disease. The Lone Star ticks actually spread an allergy to red meat. If you actually contract it, it causes an alpha gall allergy. Have you heard anything about this?
I haven't. I'm not gonna lie, you're kind of scaring the hell out of me at the moment.
I'm sorry.
That'd be a terrible thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to scare, but yeah, I think it's just red meat, which totally would negate the whole reason I hunt if that happened. So guys, if you guys up north, just be on the lookout. Like I said, look them up online. But they look like they're a tick, but the females have a white dot on their abdomen. That's why they call them Lone Stars. I didn't mean to scare you if you've never heard of them. But I didn't know that they were in Ohio until just recently. And well, not recently, it's been a couple of years. So where I live up by Canton, I've not come across them. Like you guys, I've seen more of the dog ticks and the deer ticks. We got those, a prolific amount of those, but I've not come across one of the Lone Stars yet. But it's just a matter of time before they make their way further north and stuff. So keep your eyes open for that. And if you guys travel, out of state to hunt, like Ohio and stuff, the permethrin's about the best thing that I've came across. Because I treated my clothes with it. My other buddy that went with us, he treated his, but the one didn't. He forgot about it. He's got like 110 kids, and he's very busy with his job and just never got around to it. And like I said, we were pulling ticks off of him left and right, and luckily we caught him in time, or whichever ones that bit him didn't pass along that allergy, or maybe he doesn't have the markers to come down with it, because it is a type of allergy response. So scary stuff. Didn't mean to scare you already on the podcast and make you rethink your turkey plans, but
I'll go, self-diagnose on, I'll go Google this stuff.
I'll go diagnose it now. So yeah, I didn't mean to scare you guys. So it sounds like you guys have about the same type of season for turkey as we do. Now you guys do differ in Michigan just a little bit with your deer season, maybe not the dates, but how you guys handle your buck management. Because in Ohio, like we have been a 1 buck state for as long as I can remember. And, I'm 40 now and I started hunting when I was 14. So at least over a quarter of a century, we've been a 1 buck state. And by buck, I mean antlered deer. And that's any deer that has antlers over 3 inches, which could technically be an antlered doe as well. Which, don't happen that often, but they do happen. So yeah, we're allowed 1, and I guess you guys are allowed 2, right?
Yeah, we're allowed 2. I think they just changed the regulations a few years back to where the second one has to have 4 on a side or better. And they just made it in the last, I don't know how many years. The first one is supposed to have 3 on a side now. So at least we've got some sort of management happening now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Michigan's been way behind as far as quality deer management for a long time. But yeah, that's our, as long as I can remember, we've always had the ability to have 2 bucks per year.
Yeah. And so I'm glad to hear that they're looking towards kind of like that point restriction. Because Pennsylvania, they implemented a point restriction. It's been a while, and I guess it's pretty infamous over there in Pennsylvania. There's a lot of fighting that took place because of that, politically and also just through the hunting community. And it actually improved their hunting. And a lot of people, who doubted at first actually seen the positive aspects of it to allow, bucks to mature or get older. Then it improved the hunting there in Pennsylvania, which Sounds like, if you guys do your point restriction, hopefully we'll do the same thing for you, especially being a $2 state.
I have noticed it, especially. I used to have a cabin up in the Upper Peninsula, and they changed the restriction up there a while back. And over the course of about 4 or 5 years, you can actually start seeing better deer. From instead of just seeing the single spike or maybe fork horn. So I'm kind of excited, like hoping that it continues. And yeah, I think it'd be a lot better. I'd rather people would just go out and harvest and doe in an area that they're overpopulated anyway, instead of taking every spike that walks through.
Yeah, I hear that. And that actually brings up a couple of points, but Michigan, you guys are kind of infamous for your hunting population. You and Pennsylvania both are pretty highly hunted. I'm correct with that? Well, at least you guys are. Is that correct?
I would say so.
Yeah, for sure.
Hunting land has become farther and fewer in between. Yeah. Every fence row might have 4 guys on it looking every other way. But yeah, but we do have quite a bit of state land that's available as good. Well. It's just that's populated too. So yeah, seems like everybody up here is out hunting nowadays.
That's good and bad at the same time. I can understand the frustrations, but it's also good to have the population there to hopefully maybe sway votes if need be. You know what I mean? So here in Ohio, we're allowed to shoot up to 6 deer in a year, and only one of those could be an antler deer, and the rest could be antlerless, or we can shoot 6 antlerless deer, which once again is a deer that has antlers. And that could be an antler deer, but the antlers are less than 3 inches in length. So that's your spikes, your button bucks, things like that, right? So, how many deer are you guys allowed to harvest per year?
So I think they just opened it up, and it all depends on the county or the region you're in.
Okay.
They go through and monitor, and then they'll release so many doe tags. But I know, like in the southern third of the state, if I'm not mistaken, you can go literally almost every day. I don't know if they have a limit, as long as there's more tags for sale.
Okay.
Some of them, they're kind of you have to apply and drawn, and then that might be your one doe tag for that area. But as they're trying to cope with a lot of the soaring population, they're opening it up more. So I think last year, my son was telling me that it could have been almost limitless, 1 a day, if you wanted to.
Wow. Yeah, well, we go by county here. It is most of the time, most of our counties that they receive is 3. There are urban counties that, like Columbus and Cincinnati and Cleveland, the counties that those cities fall in, I think they're allowed 4, just to help with the population. But we are allowed 6 throughout the entire state as of right now. And that's one of the things that our biologist down here has been promoting, is that the shooting of more does, or harvesting of more does. And me personally, I don't understand what the reservation is about shooting does. I've heard a lot of different excuses that some people like, I don't have the time to go out, that much. So I focus my efforts on getting my buck for the year. Okay. I understand that one. But then the ones who like to go out, that do have the time to go out, that just don't want to shoot a doe. And I hear the excuse of, well, I just don't want to deal with it. Okay. We shoot, I typically, I'm somewhere between 3 to 5 deer that I end up harvesting every year. Depends on how much I can get out, but we go through a lot of deer meat here at my house. We got 4 people that live here. That's, my wife and the 2 kids. And then my mother stays in an in-law suite that's attached to the house. So there's technically 5 of us here, and we go through the deer meat. And I'm not afraid to share it either, but, what do you guys think about that? I mean, obviously the biologists want us to shoot more does, and to be quite honest with you, it's better for the herd if we can reduce numbers to a certain amount, obviously for carrying capacity. And the fold of this is that it actually will improve herd quality, and it would also start to improve like the potential of our bucks, because the amount of food and resources that would be available to them could be at that level of excess to actually allow them to promote all that energy and resources that they're consuming towards their growth versus just maintenance. So what do you think?
So
That's deep. I know. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think, so I've kind of witnessed it here we live in Kent County, or right on the border of Kent County, Ottawa County up here in Michigan. And I, I don't want to misspeak, but Kent County has been known as one of the highest counties, I want to say, I know in the state, if not in the nation, for car deer accidents every fall. There's been a big urban sprawl as far as Grand Rapids, Michigan growing out into the farmland. And with all that, that's created. So they're up here. That's why there's more and more tags available. We have, I've grown up since I was a little kid. We had nothing but wild game growing up. I find that the more we eat it, the healthier it is. We know to some extent where it came from, not like buying beef from the grocery store, and it might have come from a food lot with concrete slabs in Texas or someplace as far as the beef goes. So health wise, I think it's up there. Much, much better. I got to give a shout out to a group that we are partnered with up here in our neighboring county, and they call themselves the Doe Patrol, and they take everybody's everybody's deer. If they harvest a doe, they'll take it, they actually process it and support the local food bank with it. They do a huge amount. Guys just show up kind of at night and lend a helping hand and do that. So we've worked with them on it, because it's like you said, and there's a lot of statistics I used to know better as far as, you take more does out, you got to even out the population of bucks to doe ratio if you want the more mature bucks to actually reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
And I've witnessed personally in my own life, like I had said, we used to have a cabin up in the Upper Peninsula, and we'd go out for a drive around about an hour before dark, and about a 5 mile radius, 5 mile radius, we count 200 deer, but not a single buck on all the fields.
Mm.
And I know that they've got to exist, but that number just seems astronomically, the scales are tipped.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for, I'd rather harvest a doe and try to increase. If everybody's out hunting for the antlers, or eventually everybody wants a bigger one, but
mm-hmm.
to let that younger buck grow or potentially produce a more mature, bigger antlered deer, if that means doing your part and taking some does out to thin it out, I think that's better for the health of the entire herd. But I know there's some old timers up this way that believe every doe produces more bucks, so don't shoot them. And I don't know if I'll ever convince them otherwise.
Yeah, that's the thing with beliefs. It's hard to prove or disprove a belief, and that's where we get in trouble when we start to argue beliefs. And I guess, and I know people down here that are exactly the same way. Like if you shoot all the does, then there are not going to be any more bucks, because they're not going to be, because the does are the ones that produce them. Okay, I get it, I understand. Or people don't want to shoot does because they think that's what attracts the bucks to their property. For them to come over and chase after all the does. I'm like, okay, I understand why you guys understand your premise behind that. And I just, once again, sometimes it's better just to live and let live and be on your way, and do your part where you can. And overall, I mean, it's just such a small secular area and just one small property to deal with that problem. And that's kind of the issue we run down here, though, is not necessarily the opportunities that exist, because we are a pretty opportunistic state. It's getting to the access part of it, but that's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to spend up too much time on a lot of outside conversations versus why we're here, and that's to talk about obviously your guys' product line. So, but Dan, it sounds like you have quite the rich history in the outdoors as a hunter or as a sports person, whether it's fishing or whatever. So I want to take a few moments and kind of give you guys, since you guys are new to the podcast, both you and Steve, to kind of introduce everyone to yourselves, who you are, your history in the outdoors, and what kind of led you guys to where you are today. So whoever wants to go first, Dan, Steve, either one.
I'll go, I guess. My name's Steve, and I've been hunting since I can remember, really. I've been small game hunting for the most part of since I could shoot, probably at 6 years old, and that's one of my favorites to go out and do is small game hunt. But I really started to get into deer hunting probably 10 years ago, and I really enjoy it. So I got in with Dan about a year and a half ago because even being a young guy, dragging deer really sucks. So with our product line and everything, Dan was telling me about it, and I was like, I want that in my life. I want to be a part of this. This is sweet. So I jumped on board, and here we are. So I'll give it over to Dan.
Yeah. So being a little bit more seasoned, I guess, than Steve, he's a little younger than I. I grew up in a hunting household. Perhaps even, I wouldn't say it wasn't cool, but none of my friends or their parents kind of hunted. I literally, from the time I think, I don't know, it was 5 or 6, I carried a BB gun, and my dad and my grandpas and uncles actually all had squirrel dogs, and every weekend they would go squirrel hunting. And when that season was done, it was off to rabbits, and then it was ice fishing, and then it was steelhead fishing and turkey hunting, and literally the entire world evolved around what season it was. And then eventually, to the point, like my grandpa had a little 24 by 24 cabin back on his 80 acres that had no electricity, just propane oil lamps and stove and wood burner, and that's where we spent weekends. And then going off into the state land around there, like I said, squirrel hunting or deer hunting. So really grew up with it. Probably didn't appreciate it when I got into being a teenager as much as I should have. I wish I could kind of go back now and enjoyed it a little more. But yeah, I can remember when I first started, I was 12, and I wasn't strong enough to pull back a compound bow yet. They didn't have much let off back then. And I can remember lifting weights just so I could pull it back so I could go bow hunting. And so, yeah, times have changed a tad bit for that. But so one of the big things that had always stuck with me when I was out, being the younger guy or the kid, most of the hauling of the deer ended up on our shoulders or carrying stuff. And I always remember my grandpa or my dad saying, once you got the game down or once you shot it, then the real work begins. And that was their joke every time they shot something. And the thing that kept popping into my head was, well, if that's where the work is, why don't you figure out a way to make it easier? And that would make everything easier. It's kind of where the whole premise of all the products that we created in the Unkle Stubbs came from. It's how to be smarter, how to get your game in and out of the woods easier and more efficiently. And, stuff that actually worked. And that's where the whole Unkle Stubbs Outdoor kind of started and kind of led us to where we're at today so far.
Yeah, because I was really interested in where the inspiration for the product line came from, and as you're telling you guys are going through your quick bios, like I'm thinking of I don't know, there more than a handful of times that I sat here and after I shot an animal and and recovered it, and I sat and I questioned. I said, why on earth did you shoot this animal this far back in here? You have to get it out of here now. And one date in particular happened not too long ago. We had like snow apocalypse, like 2021 or something like that. I don't know. We got a crap ton of snow for us. And it was so bad I couldn't get my four-wheeler back to where I wanted to go. Like it just wasn't going to go. The snow was piling up too deep and I couldn't get the four-wheeler to go back. So I walked the rest of the way in and ended up shooting this doe in the late season. And just to give you an idea, I had to go up to the ridge top where I hunted, and then there was another downward slope down into a ravine, or down towards like a creek bottom or a drainage. But down that bottom was the property line for another property, which technically, if I wanted to, I'm sure they would have given me permission to go down that way to get out. But basically, the way this doe died was down on that backside of that ridge to where I had to come back uphill to go downhill in more than a foot of snow. And I'm sitting here, and I met you guys at the Sportsman's Expo, and that was the first thing that came to mind was that event when I was testing your products or demoing your products with you. That came to mind. I said, I really wish I had this drag strap, like, for that particular moment, because that was a pain in the butt. Like, going downhill was great, like, because it was snow and I could have rode her down like a sled, and I wouldn't do that. That's disrespectful, but you get what I mean. Like, it was easier to go downhill, but it was the uphill and just the overall, like, I had at least, to be honest with you, no joke, I think I had a mile trip to get out. By the time I did, all the ups and downs and all the rounds, it was about a mile for me to drag her back to where I could, access her with a motorized vehicle. And yeah, that's when I'm like, man, this strap would be really good. And so let's talk about it. You guys focus on these. And I don't know how you want to. I don't know how you would like to term it, but they technically are recovery aids. You guys have quite a robust product line, and let's just start from there. What do you guys offer?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, we're sitting here, both of us, smiling and shaking our heads as you're telling your story, because everybody's been there, and I don't care if you're 18 years old and 250 and a college athlete. I mean, I've met a few guys that say they carry the deer out over their shoulders, and well, that's good for them. They can have it. But the rest of us, we'll just leave it at that. The rest of us have run into this. So where the whole drag strap kind of started is, it's like you said, and actually the one day that I sat there, I tell people I'm not necessarily probably the best hunter in the world. I am not patient, and I don't like to sit still, and my mind doesn't stop. And so I'll go into the woods and I'll sit there and I'll remember that episode like you had, and I'll think, okay, there's got to be a better way. And so when it came to like the drag strap, I had went to all of the stores and I'd bought everything out there to try to possibly make it better. And just so you know, I'm not throwing shade at anybody else's ideas or what they've done. It just didn't work for me, for one reason or another. So I had a pretty specific list. Like, anything that we built had to be compact. It had to be able to be carried on your body, and it had to be very tidy so that it wasn't taking up a lot of room. And it had to be lightweight, and it had to be easy to use and make sense. And it had to be, affordable, but also had to be to where more than one person could use it. So when we started going through it, I came up with the fact that when you're dragging your deer out, most of the time, whether it's by the horns or by the leg, what fails sooner than anything is your grip strength, trying to hang on to something with, grip it and pull at the same time. And so I kept saying, well, shoot, if I just had something to hold on to, that would make everything so much better. If I could get some leverage and use my arm. And even when I would make up some other handles, I realized, like, I tried like a ski rope kind of handle, and I realized that I was still gripping all the time when I was using it. And they've got some that are 2-person, and that didn't work. So I don't know how I came across it, but we run a webbing that goes across the back of your hand, and it kind of snugs up. It doesn't ever pinch, but it really takes the stress off the forearm and your knuckles, and you're not white knuckling it trying to hang on. And the whole strap just became a kind of extension of your arm, and it really, really worked. It was really comfortable. It also allowed us to be able to wrap the whole strap around it. Like, we tried paracord and we tried rope and that sort of thing, but I kept running into the issue that it was a jumbled mess, looked like a bird's nest every time. And I wanted it to where it rolled right up. So that's why we used the 1-inch strap, the polyester strapping, just because it was compact and easy to keep that way. So yeah, I kept thinking, that's where the whole handle came from. And then a lot of times you said, yeah, you got to drag a deer uphill. And I challenge anybody to stand side by side and try to drag a buck or a doe uphill with any snow side by side and find that. And I haven't seen it done elegantly yet. It's like it didn't, you can't do it. Most of the time, the deer I shoot will end up at the bottom and they'll be in the thick stuff and you got to get out. So I witnessed this when we were hunting in the cedar swamps in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it's thick. And you're just trying to follow a raccoon trail or game trail or anything out. And two people couldn't walk side by side because you were wider than the trail. So we ended up, I was watching a weightlifting competition or something like that. And I saw guys doing a tug of war, and I thought, you know what? Those guys are pulling on the same thing. So that's where our buddy loop that we sewed in next to the handle came from. We add an extra strap next to the handle, and it allows people to place themselves roughly 4 foot apart, but two people are pulling on the same object in a daisy chain kind of fashion, and they lead the way out. It There's a lot of thought behind it, but it's also simple. And that way you can add 2 people, 3, 4, whatever you want. And by doing that, because the object stays in motion instead of stopping with just one, it really takes the majority of the weight away from it. So that's where the drag strap kind of originated and came from.
Yeah, and that was the thing that caught my attention when I first walked up to your guys' booth there in Columbus. And so was this drag strap, and you demoed, exactly all the things you talked about, like your grip strength, failing. Because I've been on those drags where it's been one or two of us, and we've either have a buck, so we have a hold of antlers or legs, or we've got does down, so we each have a leg trying the drag. And you're right, your grip is the first thing that goes. If it ain't your grip, because your grip giving away, maybe it's blood, maybe it's sweat, maybe it's dirt, maybe it's a combination of all that you're just having a hard time holding on to that object, right? Because it's not a great handle. There's no great handle anywhere on a deer. Antlers maybe, but that's very that we don't, it's not antler deer we shoot all the time. So I was thinking of that, and then your demo that you guys had there was ingenious. Like, I thought that was like a really great way to demo the premise. Was you had that heavy bag was on the floor, and attached to it was like a wooden rod or something. It was about the width, the same, I guess you would say, about the same comparable size as like a deer leg or an antler. And you're like, here, drag this. I'm like, all right. Which, of course, Steve, any of us could drag it, right? But it was awkward. And then you're like, here, try it with this. So you attach a strap, we get the strap hooked in, grab hold of the handle, then you start to pull. You just realize, wow. Like, and I'm not trying to play it up. Like, really, there was a significant difference. Like, your hand didn't tire, and you could tell that you had a better grip on the animal itself, or the quote unquote animal, and you had a better grip on that handle. And like how that cinched in, and you like, I don't know if there's words that I can come up with that explains that feeling. It's like this. It's like your hands cradled in like I don't know. It feels I don't want to say amazing, because it sounds very, very soft and very fluffy, but it feels amazing the way it kind of wraps around your hand. It takes that tension off, like exactly as you said. Like, it was a great design, and then dragging that became a lot easier. And I could see this being beneficial for the long haul, especially. So that was great. And another thing that caught my attention too was the fact of being able to attach more than one drag strap to each other, because this fall, my buddy shot a buck, and it was his son and myself were the ones that drug it out. And we were that side by side, 2 by 2, trying to drag this animal out, right? And it was thick where it's at. You said it was thick, and you were talking about the thick, nasty woods of the UP. And we're going through the same thing. And there's a lot of times where we had to make a decision which way we were going to go. And 9 out of 10 times when that decision was made, that means one of us was going to be dragging, and the other one was just going to sit and watch until we got through that snag. And now with that buddy system that you have set up, like, now we can form that train and just stay in line, and we all can drag and get through the trail. So that's ingenious. I have to say that was ingenious.
it was kind of cool one day because I kept saying if people would try this, and that's where it was so hard for me at all these shows. Like we've never done any hunting shows before, and I am not the solicitor. Like, hey, I'm not a used car salesman. I'm not going to go do this. I know that this works. It's the best that I've found, and so it got to where I would talk to everybody. I'm like, hey, you try it. I won't even sell it. You tell me. Um, it was pretty crazy at the one show you're talking about. We got one guy that was kind of apprehensive, and I showed it to him, and you could see you could tell when you put two people pulling on the same bag together, their eyes would light up. And usually there was kind of a disbelief phrase that might have come out. I'll try to keep it clean here, but
Right.
what was great with this one guy is we sold it to him, and he didn't even buy it yet, but his buddy comes up and he pushed Stevie and I out of the way, and he does the whole sales pitch to his buddy. And then, so now he's sold his buddy on this. You've got to have this. And two other guys walk up and he sells it to them too. It was the craziest thing. It was so cool from our standpoint because he well, we got a believer. We got a lifer there. So, by creating that bag and remaking the kind of like the example of what it would be like, it's like, hey, you test it, you tell me if it's worth it, So yeah, that's kind of where it's like we'll let the proof be in the action.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely eye opening, and that's amazing. You got someone else that you don't even know this guy, and here you go. You've taken him to the next level to where not only is he a believer, but he's willing to sell the product for you, and you just sit back just let it go. Right? I don't think you can get a better salesman for yourself except for somebody that's brand new. It's like, here, try this. Seriously, you got to try this. And
yeah.
I have not purchased yet. I promise you, I'm going to because I saddle hunt and I try to minimize the amount of stuff I take with me because I bring in film equipment with me. And so I want to try to reduce the bulk that I take in. And I've had different drag systems. Of course, I have the Hawk crawler cart or whatever that is, but I'm not dragging that in with me when I go in to go hunt, right? That's something I've got to leave my hunting spot if I'm successful, right? I have to leave my the animal there, or I have to take the animal as far as I can to a point to where I can access with that cart. The cart can get in some places, but it's not getting in everywhere, right? And when I was like, and I've always been looking for that product that I could carry with me that does not take up a lot of space on my pack or in my saddle bags or whatever, that I can access and then drag a deer out. But you guys went one step further and added this buddy attachment. And I'm like, man, I could just if I buy two of them, just for myself, then if someone else is with me, which I hunt with people occasionally, sometimes I'm by myself and other times, there's a few of us that are hunting the same property or close to that, or I can call a buddy and instead of expecting them to have it, I already have it. We can attach and just go. And I was like, because all the other drag systems I found or that I've used, it's just me. Like, maybe there's enough room for us to grab a hold of the handle here, but once again, we're back to that awkward side by side. Which way are we going to go? Who's leading? And you realize that one of you is probably not doing much of the work while the other one is. Like, it's all the same stuff. Like, it didn't change anything like your guys' product did. And you made a mention that you could attach as many people as you want, because that was one question I had, and I kind of did a solo record about the expo, and I featured your guys' product, and I was like, I was like, I wonder, could you get like 5 or 6 guys, kind of like a little train, and just drag out of here? And I'm glad you answered that. Like, and the answer is yes, you can. I'm like, dude, that'd be amazing. 5 of us in line going, that'd be great.
So it's funny you say that. We were down in Illinois. I think the week before, and this guy, bless his soul, he walks up and he's got 4 boys, all from the age of I'm guessing between 8 and 12, and they just look to be full of it, like big time. So he kind of makes this comment and he says, That's what I got boys for. And I'm like, can they haul them out yet? And he's like, well, no. And I says, I tell you what. And we locked 4 of them together, 8-year-old up to a 12-year-old. And that the 12-year-old wasn't Shaq by any means.
Right.
No, I mean, he wasn't huge. And the 4 of those boys, the dad sat on the dummy. So they pulled over 350 pounds and they took off through the expo with him riding it like a sleigh. And it was hilarious. We actually got it on video. We're going to use it next fall. But to answer you, yes, that's just by dividing the weight. That it was pretty cool to see there too, because sometimes after you've been at the show for about the 4th day in a row, you're like, hey, we'll try anything. Something, you got to change this up a little bit, make it a little more exciting. So, but yeah, to answer you, if you got 3 full-grown men, by the time you add the 3rd person, literally everybody's looking at each other, or it almost becomes cumbersome because guys are walking faster and faster to try to pick up some weight because they feel like they're not doing much. And by the time the 3rd person's in there, you don't feel barely anything pulling out full-size deer.
That would be if I had 3 friends to call, that would be a godsend.
Right? Like, to your point, what you're saying is I always carry 2 straps, and it isn't because I'm thoughtful of my buddy that I'm giving it to. It has nothing to do with them.
No, it's all about me.
I can be selfish. I'm good with that.
Hey, listen, self-care is a big thing these days. So.
Right? This is I wanted to say that we made these products for the smarter hunter. That's what this is all about. The gift that keeps on giving, I suppose. But
yeah. Well, it is, and because I've seen the videos of like the hunting public. They use their carts. Like those guys, they're hunting public land. They travel, throughout the country, chasing whitetail, chasing turkey, things like that. And they have their little systems they use. They have the carts and stuff, but those carts are cumbersome. I've got one myself. Like the largest buck I've shot to date, I hauled out in one of in that cart, and but that cart didn't make it all the way up to where the buck was. I still had to drag that buck out to get to the cart. And so we're right back to square one. Like, and I'm thinking of that. I'm like, man, if I had these straps, then my buddy who sat and watched me do all the work could have actually helped. So,
right.
Right. Maybe he won't like that idea. Maybe he's going to be against the idea because now he doesn't have an excuse. He's like, well, I don't, there's just not room for me. I'm like, guess what, buddy?
Yeah.
Guess what?
I find that most everybody, they may talk tough, but most will end up lending a hand. And the reason they want to is because they think quickly enough that this might be me on the receiving end of this here real quick. So if I at least offer, that's usually what we've got. Everybody's running around. So, you talk about the cart that you got. And that was one of the things that a lot of people would say, oh, I got a sled and I got a cart. And to your point, I don't knock it, not at all. I mean, we've learned as a society that if you can put wheels on something, it's going to go smoother. And, so we also came up with a drag bag, and it's kind of the second product we're leading into, but it's made of a polyethylene tarpaulin material, and it's waxed. And what, kind of like you were saying, you'd be in a saddle hunter and trying to run kind of lean and light. This would go in your pack, weighs less than 3/4 of a pound, and you wouldn't have to traverse all the way back to your vehicle to get your cart. You could load up your deer and go out. And the whole premise with the bag is that if there's fresh fallen leaves or snow or frost or dew, it acts like a slip cover over the deer. You actually pull on the deer inside the bag, and it just glides. If there's snow on the ground and you're at an incline, it'll beat you to the bottom. Even leaves, if you get it started, it'll go down. So a lot of people, and I tell people all the time, like, you got to be smart enough to know whether it's going to work in your terrain. If you're into a bunch of blowdowns and it's been 2-3 years and a lot of the branches have rotted off or broken off, a pungy forest, I wouldn't suggest using it there. it's when you get it to the open and you don't want to go back and get your carton, that kind of thing. It was supposed to be lightweight, and that's where that whole idea came up with for the bag. And like I said, for me, I work out of the back of my truck, and up here in Michigan, we might have a hard freeze come mid-October, and we disconnect all our hoses and drain them so that we don't freeze the silcox. And then, so if your truck's got blood all over the back of it and you can't have that extra hour it takes trying to clean it out is kind of a wasted time to me. So I like the bag because it keeps the blood and stuff inside it while it's in transit. But also, when you're dragging your deer out, if you're through like the swamp, marsh, or what have you, it keeps a lot of the leaves and brush and debris and gravel, what have you, out of the carcass. So it makes it easier and faster to clean up. So that's the other added bonus to that is about efficiency and time. And if I don't have to clean something and waste an extra hour or two doing that, then that's efficient to me and well worth it.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad you brought up the bag, because that was going to be one of the ones I wanted to lead into, and I think it's a perfect time for it. And so I seen the bag, and anything that can help reduce the amount of drag that you're going to pull on, to reduce the resistance that you're going to have to overcome, the easier this whole process becomes, right? And I've seen the bag, and I'm like, that is a great idea. And, when we were chatting through Instagram, I kind of brought up the question. I said, don't be surprised if I ask you a question about durability, because I'm not trying to knock or anything. I'm curious. And you kind of started down the road about the durability of it. So what is the expectancy that I should expect from this bag? So if I buy this drag bag from you, and I'm going to use it for a season, as long as I'm not like trying to take it through, like you say, a pungy forest, what should I expect from it? What would be a reasonable expectation for this bag?
So the only way I answer this without looking like a complete and total fraud is it's meant to be lightweight and all of the things that I had said. And it's supposed to be, the price point is supposed to be really good on it. I mean, I think we sell this thing off our website for like $18. Mm-hmm. So this isn't a very high end, like we are not selling this so that it's going to last you your entire lifetime. It may. So you ask about durability, and I say it's hard for me to determine that because everybody's situation is different. Mm-hmm. I use it in basic woods. It'll go through briars, not a problem. Go through small underbrush, can go over the open drag. And I've used the same bag for probably 5 years in a row. Literally wash it off, fold it back up, put it in my pack. Will it tear? Yes. If you come across a blowdown and you run in it, and the point of like maybe a branch that had broken off catches on it and you're pulling with all your weight, you're going to hear it. And if you continue, I kind of tell you this, like we said, you're supposed to be a smarter hunter. If you were to go up to a barbed wire fence and straddle it to go over and step over it and hear your pants tearing, are you going to stop and unstag it, or are you going to keep walking away and then be upset that half your pants are hanging on the fence post? It will tear. It's not supposed to be that durable. Okay. My son and his buddy just hunted up in northern Michigan in an area that has a big elk population, so there's no motorized vehicles last fall. And one of his buddies shot a doe, and it was quite a ways from camp, to the point of over a mile. And they drug the deer down the kind of sandy gravel 2-track for the better part of a mile. And when they got back to camp, it had burned a hole through the side of the bag. And I was kind of disappointed. And they said, Dan, we're not. There was so much sand and grime and gravel, like the hide was still perfect. So to them, it was well worth the cost to make it easier. Mm-hmm. It went through, but it was kind of, this design that we have is not made to drag behind a vehicle down a gravel road, if that makes sense.
Right, and that does make sense, and that's kind of a good way to explain that. Where where the limits of it are. And you're right. It's a fraction. It's a small price to pay for what to expect from it. And I'm glad that you're forthcoming with it and saying, hey, it can't last you for life. It depends on, your area and how you use it. But, if you got some rougher training stuff, if you expect a season, maybe a few, and just be smart. Don't, if you, like you said, if you hear it tearing, stop, find out what the problem is and fix it. So that was a kind of a great way to look at that. And I think that's a reasonable expectation to have for the system. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
What we did find when we were at these shows, we listened to people out there, because bottom line, we're doing this. We're by no means a Cabela's or a Shields or anything like that. We make it because it works for us, and we want other people to be successful. And we want it to work there. So what we actually listened to after we came out of we did 4 shows in 4 weeks. And after the first one, we talked to some guys, and so it's funny, we talk about durability. We are actually right now working with about at least half a dozen bear guide outfitters. They came to us. They love the straps. They're in some real tight, thick territory. Mm-hmm. And they love the straps, and they love the idea of the bag, but they were worried about the durability of it. And so what we've done and what we're working on currently, we're getting in different samples of fabrics, and we're making now for the bags a good, better, and best. So we're going to have our entry level, which we got now, which I think is great. And then we've got another one that is, like I said, better. And then we're going to have a best where you won't be able to puncture it. And it will last, and it'll be able to go through it. It'll go up in weight, and obviously it'll go up in price when the canvas comes in. But so we listen to people out there, and then we're going to let you be the determining factor. I mean, if you want something that's going to last the rest of your life, well, buy the best. If you're more about, so for me personally, I like the lower end one, because when I get it back to the barn where I go to hang it, I actually cut the bag open. I'm a one-time use kind of guy on this. I open it up, and that becomes my drop cloth, so I don't have to clean up the concrete. And then when we butcher it out, all of the rib cage, everything else, legs, gets dropped right in it, and I pick it up, tape it up, and then that goes out as a garbage bag.
All right.
And all the mess. So it's an expensive garbage bag, but now you're not dealing with any of that. So like I said, we like to listen to the people out there. Now we're going to have that option come this fall, good, better, and best, and let you guys decide with how much involvement or what your terrain is or what your price point is, and let you guys go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's good you're listening to feedback. There a lot of times people come up with products because they build a product that's for that they wanted, right? Hey, this works. This solves a problem that I had. And then it's your baby, right? This is your baby. This is what you worked hard on to produce. And then sometimes, and obviously not you guys, but sometimes there are inventors, there are creators that basically become defensive or take offense when someone marks out like how do I say this? Maybe a deficiency in the product. Like, hey, this is a problem that we're starting to see. And then all of a sudden, like, you're so invested, this has become your baby. It's the same thing as someone called your kid ugly. And you don't want to it's like, man, you just get offended by it. But it's really, truly like, for a product to get to the next level, you're going to have to take the feedback from the people in the field and do what the people want you to do. And that's when you'll start to, and you'll grow from that, because especially with the options, I like the options too. And that good, better, best, I use that term in training a lot. Like, hey, what you're doing is good, but is there something better you could do? Is there something, or what would be the best thing to do here? But I like that though. Like, hey, here's our entry level stuff. This works great. Like this for 90% of the people out there, this is going to be great. Our better product, all right. So this is for the people, and I'm not going to try to sell it for you because I haven't seen the product yet. And I don't know if you guys exactly have that niche where you want to point it to, but maybe you got a little rougher terrain, maybe this, right? Or you just want a little bit more durability. Here's this, then here's the best. And this is for this is for your deep woods bear elk, bear elk outfitters to drag something out that's going to be going through the roughest, dirtiest, nasty terrain you can think of, and you need it to last. So yeah, I like those options that are available to use. And I never thought, to be quite honest with you, when I first seen the product, I never thought of using it as a drop cloth like you just explained. Like that's a good additional use, because a lot of times when we get products, especially we try to reduce weight, we have to have products. Some people won't take products that don't have multiple uses. Like if I can't use this for multiple things, it doesn't go in my pack. And so once again, that's like a good multiple use for that product. So good for you. Like that's a outside the box thinking that I didn't think of at all when I seen it. I just simply thought of, that's a good deer drag, and that was it. I never thought of using it as a drop cloth or as a waste, or basically a trash bag at the very end to haul everything out, which is the part of it. If you do process your own deer, is how do you deal with all the waste? So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, actually Stevie here went out to Montana mule deer hunting, and I'll let him tell you, but he took it along. Obviously most people that are packing in and doing that they're packing out their game.
Mm-hmm.
You got a longer distance, but he had some of the product with him, not knowing, but I'll let you tell him him tell you how he ended up using it. Another example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, last year I went out mule deer hunting in Montana, and I think when I shot mine, I was probably 2.5 miles back from where we were camping up in the mountains. And I shot mine, and when we were quartering it out, I actually took one of the bags and I laid it out, and then I put all the meat on there while we were quartering it up, so nothing got dirty or anything. It kept it all clean. So then when I put them in the meat bags, there wasn't a bunch of dirt, grass, and just grimy stuff getting in with my meat.
Mm-hmm.
So then once I put them all in the meat bags, I actually lined my backpack with the bag, so there was no blood or anything getting in my bag. So when I got back to camp, because I think it was -18 out when we were out there, and it just started to be a blizzard. And I didn't want blood getting in my bag, and then my backpack ended up freezing because I was hunting with 3 other people, and they still had to get some deer too. So I didn't want my backpack frozen for the next time we went out, and my buddy's got one, and then my bag's frozen. I can't put a quarter in there because my bag's frozen together. So I just used it to keep everything clean and no blood get in the bag, so it didn't freeze my backpack or anything in my bag.
Wow. That's another thing I probably would have never thought of too. So yeah, talk about multiple purpose. Like sometimes I have a hard time thinking outside the box. There are some things I'm like, oh, I could do that with. Sometimes, most of the time, when you tell me this is of a deer drag, that's what I use it for. It's just simply that. I would, to be honest with you, I didn't know. Someone else would have to lead me down the road and say, hey, we could probably use it as a drop cloth. Oh yeah, we could. And then as a pack liner, that's amazing. I'd have never thought of that, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't have.
So before it got that cold, it was actually kind of like Michigan. I don't know how Ohio is, but the weather flipped, because when we got there, it was 70 degrees, sunny and beautiful. 3 days later, it was -18 in the blizzard. But one of those days in between that, it was kind of like a misty rain. So I didn't need my warm weather clothes when we were out. So we have a small bag. It's called the Carry Clean, which is normally used for like turkeys or coyotes or trapping. But I actually put my cold weather gear in that bag and sealed it because it's virtually waterproof. It kept everything dry, so when it did get cold, none of my stuff was wet. It just kept everything dry, and that was the other thing I did too with with our other bags that are smaller stuff.
Yeah, that would be a pain in the butt to deal with. I've done a couple backcountry hunts, and getting wet is not something I wanted to experience for a long period of time, especially if it's going to be cold.
Yeah, no, that sucked.
Yeah, I have not dealt with -18 yet because I'm a fair weather hunter, I guess. Apparently, I go for the early seasons. If it's late season, I'm usually here in Ohio, chasing after whitetail, and I've been in some predicaments that way. But for the most part, if I'm out west, it's early archery, because that's the only season I really like is archery season. I'm a diehard bow hunter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm a firearms instructor. Maybe that's what it is. I teach firearms, so it's not as challenging with me as a firearm, because I've taught those for a long time, right? and,
Right.
As opposed to the bow. So, but yeah, and it's great to have a product that's got multiple uses. And once again, like I have a hard time thinking outside the box. I'm glad that you're sharing some of these examples for people to think, oh yeah, I would have never thought of that. And there's some people that will MacGyver something. They'll have your product, next thing you know, they got like some emergency shelter built out of it and something that I'd have never thought of. They're using it as like a bivy sack or something. I'm like, that's a deer drag. That's a deer drag. What are you doing with that?
Right. Yeah, no.
The guy's living out of it. I'm like, oh, all right. I guess whatever floats your boat, but yeah. Well, so you kind of went down the line of talking about some other products, so you got that what you call the carry clean, which is a smaller version of your drag bag, and you said that was kind of more along the lines of like turkey trapping, smaller game, stuff like that. Is there anything else that goes along with that line?
So we've got a what we call a carry handle. It's same handle setup as a drag strap, just a lot shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly to help guys that have went out turkey hunting. And when you grab your turkey after you bagged them and you grab them, down by the legs or right near the spurs, and you throw them over your shoulder, that 20, 25, 28 pound turkey is going to get real heavy real soon, trying to hang on. So the carry handle wraps around their legs, kind of the same system. And when you throw that over your shoulder, you literally can hold your hand straight up and down. You don't have to grip it at all. And it takes all the weight away. So I kind of came up with that carry handle first. It was an awesome day. Went out, shot a turkey, used that, threw it over my shoulder because it, some people throw the turkey in their pack and that may work, but that's where I've got all my decoys and all my other stuff.
Right.
And so I got back to the truck. I threw it in the bed of the truck and went about my business, and then hopped in and went home. About an hour and a half later, after it's been about low 80s, I go to hop in my truck and realize that turkey had bled all over the back of my shirt and pants, and now I have that all over the inside of my truck. So that spawned forth the idea of the carry sack or the carry clean. So we made the bag kind of like the efficiency thing again. Now we'll just put the turkey in the bag, and it keeps all your clothes, everything good. You can wash it out, put it back in your pack. We use it for that. Some people that go coyote hunting, coyotes don't usually smell the best. And if they want to save the hide, they don't want to drag it out, so they'll throw it in the bag. We got other guys that are using the bag and the strap for river fishing. They'll go and get their limit on a stringer, and nothing's worse than trying to wrap your hand around a stringer or a rope and then throw 3 good size steelhead over your back, carry them up to the vehicle. You're going to smell fishy for a while if you do that. And so it's kind of that whole efficiency thing, or packing game in. Stevie here had alluded to that. It's water repellent. I don't tell you to put your game or your stuff in this bag and then throw it into a lake and then come and tell me that the thing leaked. It's not that. It's if it's raining or snowing, it's going to shed all of the water off. But it's great for if you're going in to hunt somewhere and you want to carry your gear with you, put it on when you get there or stuff like that. It folds right back up because most guys are carrying a backpack already to begin with. You don't want a second one. So those are kind of the 2 main things. So we got the drag strap and the combo, or the drag strap and the drag bag. And then we got the carry handle and the carry clean or the carry bag. Those are the very first kind of 2 sets of products that we've got going. The whole premise of, easier and helping get your game out. Yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
Well, I knew about the drag strap in the drag bag, because I met you guys there at the expo, and so after talking with you, I got on, I came back home and I got online. I seen about the carry bag and the carry strap for like the smaller animals, and I'm like, man, turkeys stink. Like, to me, they stink. I'm like, I
Yep.
anything I could find to help me carry this bird out and so I end up with it all contained and not over me would be great. I'm like, that's actually a good idea, because I was trying to think of that, because I don't have a full turkey vest when I go out. End up buying this like speed belt or something from Cabela's. I love this thing. And basically everything's like on a belt. And there's no like, and I have a strap. I end up tying like a strap or something out of paracord that I use to tote the turkey around with, but there's nothing to keep the turkey off of me and my clothes. And I'm like, that's a great idea. and you guys got that carry bag. So, and I was thinking, man, it's going to keep blood off of you. It's going to keep dirt. It's going to keep the lice and the ticks and stuff, and just the dirt and the grime and just the filth of a turkey off of you as you're carrying it out. Like, I'm sold. If I was more of a prolific turkey hunter, I'd be buying at least 3 or 4 of them. But turkeys are like the bane of my existence. I don't like them. I don't like hunting them, and I do. It's enjoyable for me, but I'm not as good at it as I am deer. And also, I hate them in archery shoots. When I go out, I hate turkey targets for some reason. It's like they get in my head. I never score well on them ever. So they're like the bane of my existence.
That's awesome.
And most of the time, but then again, here in Ohio, though, like our turkey population kind of took a hit, and I don't know what it was, to be 100% honest and truthful with you. I don't know if it was some of the wet springs that we had that were kind of, was a reduction of, successful nests. I don't know if it was the overpopulation of raccoons. I don't know if it's the booming population of bobcats that we're getting, or just coyotes. I don't know, or I don't want to, or I don't even know if it's even just one thing you could point the finger at as being the problem. However, I will say that in the recent past, here within the last year or so, we've started to see an increase of turkey numbers, at least what I'm observing personally myself. So I'm looking forward to maybe going out this year, or at least next year, if that trend continues, because it got really bad there for a little bit. I didn't hear turkey, and I barely seen a turkey there for a couple years. So once again, I really don't know what to point the finger to, and I don't know if the biologists 100% know either. What exactly it was. So, but I don't know. Maybe this year I'll buy a tag and go.
There you go. There you go.
So with that drag bag, though, so to circle back on it real quick, the whole deer goes inside that, right? And there's if I remember correctly, you guys have like a slit somewhere that the drag strap goes. You can basically attach a deer to the strap, right? You girth hitch it, that strap onto the deer, and then the handle and stuff can kind of come through that slit on that drag bag. So you can, not only does the bag fully encompasses the deer, and then you still have access to your drag strap. Is that correct?
Yeah. Excuse me. So when I started making the bag, literally I went to the hardware store and bought a tarp. I thought, this is going to be great. And then I'm trying to tie it up, and I'm using string. Well, now the string is getting caught on everything that it's out there. It kind of defeated the purpose. And then I was trying to tie off to the corner of the tarp and drag it. That didn't work. So what we ended up finding to kind of keep the price point down and keep it, our motto almost is the KISS motto: keep it simple. And so what we did is we made a 3-foot wide by a 6-foot long bag. And then what we found is if you were pulling on the object, the game inside the bag, you didn't need to reinforce the edges and put grommets and anything to attach to. So you're actually pulling on the body of the animal, and the bag becomes a slip cover. So what we do is we punch a pre-made hole in the sewn end of the bag, or if for for you to visualize it. Imagine it's a pillowcase, but it's got a pre-sewn hole right in the middle of the sewn end. And you run the handle through that hole, and then the whole bag goes over the top of the deer. The deer goes inside it, and then you're pulling on the deer that it's fastened to, but the bag becomes like a slip cover, and that it keeps the price point down. There's no zippers, there's no flaps, there's no Velcro or any other fasteners that can give out while you're utilizing the bag. Try to keep it simple that way.
Yeah, keeps the weight down and also keeps the price point down.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. So say someone comes to you and they're going to buy the drag strap and the drag bag together, and it is a package deal. If I'm correct, it's on your website, right? They can buy both as a package deal.
Yes. Yep. We offer a combo. So you can buy like the strap and the bag together. Those are retailing at $29.99.
Okay.
And then we're selling, you can buy just the strap or the bag separately. The strap, I think, sells for $12.99.
Mm-hmm.
And the bag, I'd have to look and see. Usually we sell it as a replacement. Some people buy it directly because they've got their own drags or whatever.
Right.
I think that's somewhere around the 18 to 20, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And then,
Let's test your knowledge. How much does that entire kit weigh? So if I buy a strap and a bag, how much does that weigh?
Just under a pound.
Nope, it's 1.1 pound, 1 ounce. That's with the plastic and the packaging. So when you take it away, the plastic package that it comes in and everything else, we only know that for shipping. It just exceeded the 1 pound. But when you take that away, it comes in at just under a pound total.
Nice. Well worth it. I mean, the capabilities of the product and the ease of use, plus the headaches it's going to reduce. It takes up minimal space in a backpack because that folds down pretty small, and the handle, your drag strap, but you could probably, I'm just going on a limb here, I bet you I could probably fit 3 or 4 of them in one of my cargo pockets if I needed to, if not more. Like, they fold down extremely small, and just the room and the weight alone is worth having with you to help reduce that headache of getting your animal out of the situations that we talked about earlier. Like, you sit and you question your life choices at that moment. You're like, why did I do this? So absolutely
worth that.
Yeah, it is, and it comes in at a good price point, and I guarantee you I'm going to have at least 2 or 3 of those straps and probably one of the bags here before the fall hits here and I start hardcore whitetail hunting here in Ohio again, especially with a product that has multiple purposes that it has. And I circle back to it again. Like, the one thing that really sold me on it was the buddy system. Like, there's been multiple deer that I love to have help for me to drag a deer out. I love to have the help, but it just becomes an awkward mess. It just becomes awkward. You got 2 guys trying to do 2 different things at the same time. One guy doesn't know how to listen to the other one, or the other one, we just, and then you find out one guy's doing most of the work anyways. And it just becomes an awkward mess because no one has a really good thing. Like, so you say it's a buck, you're fighting over who's going to have the head because the antlers lease gives you a good handle. And the other guy gets stuck on the legs. It's probably got blood soaked down it because someone made a good heart shot on it. So it's got blood all down it. It's hard to grab a hold of, hard to keep a grip on. And you just sit and argue over who's going to get what. And with this drag strap now that you guys have developed, ingenious. I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Ingenious. Now eliminates that, and it just makes us a more streamlined unit getting through the woods. And honestly, I would love to have the money to sit and buy like at least 10 of them, and then do a video of like 10 of us dragging a deer out of the woods together. But unfortunately, I don't have like 10 friends that I could call at one time to come help me drag a deer out of the woods. I mean, I could probably take my 2 boys, my one buddy, some of his kids. Maybe we might do that. Maybe we'll do that, and you'll have a funny video of a train of people dragging one. It'll probably be some little button buck or something.
I was going to say that'd be awesome. That
vehicle.
That's it.
Be a
For
whole
sure.
train of us carrying stuff out. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate your guys' time. Is there any closing comments that you guys have about the products? Anything we did not discuss yet?
Not that I can think of. Just want to thank you for having us on, and I feel like I probably monopolized most of the conversation. Didn't mean to do that. We'll have to even this out on another talk about something other later on. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys coming out. So let's drop your socials and stuff. So where can people find you at on not only just social medias, your websites, and are there any upcoming events that they could meet you guys in person and get their hands on the products?
Yeah, so our website is unclestubbs.com and our social medias are Unkle Stubbs Outdoors. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and we haven't started TikTok yet, but we will soon, and we're on YouTube. But we will be in Alabama here July 19th through the 21st at the Birmingham show. And then we got another one in August.
We've got one in August we're looking at. There was one, we haven't really decided. I thought there was one in either Wisconsin or Illinois or Pennsylvania. We haven't locked in the August one yet, but yeah, look us, if you like it, look us up and follow and yeah, comment or let us know. And definitely, if anybody's got any photos or anything like that or has any feedback, we'd love to hear.
Well, hopefully I'll have some good feedback for you here after after the start of this fall. Once the deer start dropping here for us here in Ohio, and I start my mission of a doe patrol myself, going out and feeding the family. I'll definitely at least have multiple drags to report back for you guys on. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate your guys' time to come and join us. And if anyone is interested, the links to all their socials, their webpage, are going to be associated with the show notes. Those should be in the show notes section for this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this last hour and a half that we've been talking or thereabouts. I know your guys' time is very valuable, and we appreciate every minute you spend with us. On a closing note, we really hope that you guys have fun or stay safe as you're chasing the experience that you want. Remember, it's your experience. Don't let someone troll you out of that. And as you're trying to get yourself to that experience, or at least to chase your own experience, we hope that you have the courage enough to fail, but yet have the humility and be humble enough to learn from your mistakes so that you can perfect your technique, your choice, so that you can chase your own experience the way that you want. Until our experiences cross paths again, or at least until the next podcast, I hope you guys stay safe out there, and God bless you.